Hello, my name is Colton Watson and I am doing my documentary on the Tallahassee Bus Boycotts. The Tallahassee Bus Boycotts may not have been too well known, but they sure were effective. As the book The Pain and the Promise states, the movement could only be successful if it was carried out along with other civil actions, including additional boycotts in other locations and protests such as the lunch counter sit-ins. Segregation is the separation of people by race. In America, blacks and whites could not attend the same schools, eat the same restaurants, be treated by the same doctors, or ride the same transportation. Publicly enforced segregation was not stopped until the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was passed. In the 1950s in Tallahassee, segregation still existed. The bus boycotts were part of many actions taken by African Americans to stop segregation. The bus boycotts began in 1956 when two FAMU students, Wilhelmina Jakes and Carrie Patterson, refused to move to the back of a bus and were removed from said bus. In a 1979 interview, Reverend C.K. Steele described how the boycotts began. As Reverend Steele recounts, after the success of the Alabama bus boycotts in 1955, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People was banned in Alabama. Local groups were afraid the same thing would happen in Florida, so they decided to create a new group to lead the boycotts. The group was the Inter-Civic Council, ICC, and C.K. Steele was named its first president. The ICC began the statewide boycotts by organizing carpools. The city tried to stop them. Many other organizations, such as the Ku Klux Klan, tried to intimidate participants in stopping the boycotts, but under the leadership of Reverend Steele, thousands of African Americans continued to refuse to ride city buses. In 1956, Alabama's laws requiring segregation on city buses were ruled unconstitutional by the U.S. Supreme Court. The bus boycott ended on December 23, 1956, although the city continued to pass ordinances authorizing bus segregation, but bus drivers ignored them and the boycotts were considered a success. I decided to interview my friend Alpha Mays Barnes, who is the director and founder of the John J. Riley House Museum, to learn more about the bus boycotts. She talked a little about what she remembered from the boycotts as a girl, and she also told me about the social and economical impact.
The economical impact, well, first of all, most of the riders of the bus were blacks because they didn't have much transportation in the way of automobiles and that kind of thing. So, that being the case, and most of the blacks, especially the women, worked in white homes in other neighborhoods. So they were the ridership, pretty much. And the other ridership were the students at Florida A&M University. So when the boycott came about, it had an adverse impact on both sides because then the maids and the domestic workers, they call them today, and the students had to find another way to get to work and to school. But at the same time, after about a year or so, the city realized that, hey, this boycott is about to bankrupt our public transportation system. So they resisted probably for about a year and a half or two. And then the city realized that, hey, we need to do something about this boycott. And so in the end, it was directed that the buses would start riding again, transporting again, and people returned to the buses. Of course, there was still some resistance here and there, but that law had been passed. So you had some economic impact on both sides.
Ms. Barnes also told me about the Heritage Walk, which recognizes the participants in both the bus boycotts and the lunch counter sit-ins.
The city manager reached out and said, I want to do a civil rights sidewalk. And I was a part of that committee to help identify people who were in the movement based on the research that we do here at Riley Center and Museum. And we actually identified 54 of the civil rights leaders. And there was a documentary prepared. The city has a copy of that event. And there was a big opening that night, and they showed the documentary, and the chamber of City Hall was packed, plus they had to have a spillover room because descendants of those 54 came for that recognition.
From all of them?
All from all over the United States, they were there. And if you get the documentary, you will see how some of their relatives just were so emotional to see the names of their fathers and their grandfathers and whatever who were in this movement.
To get a personal experience with the bus boycotts, I decided to walk down the Heritage Walk myself. I found C.K. Steele's footprint, as well as Wilhelmina Jake's. As Miss Barnes said, each footprint has a story. I look forward to learning about them all. I learned a lot about my city's civil rights history while researching this project. Because of the bravery of a number of people in my town taking a stand, a huge difference was made. I hope to help continue making a change. This is a picture of the statue of C.K. Steele at the bus plaza in Tallahassee. The participants of the bus boycotts not only worked to stop segregated seating, but also to stop segregation in general. The success of the bus boycotts led to additional boycotts of lunch counters in Tallahassee, and other actions as well. And those successes led to more changes that impacted African Americans' equality in jobs, education, and other social areas. The people who participated in the activism of the late 1950s and early 60s continued to make changes to this day. I hope their actions will inspire others to continue to fight for equality.